Hey, my name is Minda, and I am currently a graduate student at the University of Alabama. I have also been an educator for about 8 years now. Wow. So, I also have hyperhidrosis. So, this is an issue where you excessively sweat, and it usually is like my hands, feet, under my arms, places like that. A lot of people that do have hyperhidrosis have social anxiety. They're always self-conscious, and they're always worried that people are just gonna see what's going on and think they're weird. I've had this my whole life. A lot of it is kind of trial and error and trying to adapt. As a kid, I went to the dermatologist a lot. They've tried different creams, deodorants, different kinds of medication. I'm now currently medicated and take a pill twice a day, but I mean, sometimes it doesn't quite work, but this is actually not as bad as normal. So when I say excessive sweating, I'm not talking about like my hands are just a little damp. I'm talking about I drip giant drops of sweat from my hands all the time. And as a kid, I used to wear socks to sleep in because my feet sweat so bad and my feet would stick to the bed sheets. And it was super uncomfortable, and I didn't know what else to do. So that was my personal fix. When you talk to people that have this, you'll find out that, everybody has their own way of adapting to it and to try to hide it. So yeah, fist bumps. I don't usually shake hands, and when I do, I usually like wipe my hands 3 times or more on my pants first. As a teenager, my hands sweat so bad that I always had blue marks from my paper on my hands. And sometimes it would even, like, if I had to write in pen, that was even worse because I always had pen marks. And washing ink off is a lot harder than you would think. So my pants would often have some of the blue or whatever ink I was using on them. So you're probably like, okay, so yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. It wasn't just my hands though. It was also under my arms. So as a teenager and in elementary and things like that, like as I got older, you would have to use more deodorant to try to cover up the sweating. And so I would reapply deodorant all the time, and it would ruin shirts. Like my favorite ones always had like underarm stains or stains from deodorant. So I also had another issue on top of the hyperhidrosis. But as a kid, I was told they were connected, but they're not. I actually have severe skin allergies. And when I say severe, I actually was allergy tested just only 2 or 3 years ago. So as a kid, this skin allergies, it usually showed up in the same places that I was sweating in. Turns out that I am allergic to chemicals in a lot of cosmetics. So lotions, actually in deodorants, all kinds of things like that. So when I was trying to cover my sweating, I was also getting into stuff that I was severely allergic to. And so on my hands, I would have a rash that would go from like the center of my palms all the way up my fingers. And if it got so bad, I would have like right here in my fingers, my skin would start to peel and bleed. And the more my hands sweat, the worse the allergy was, because I would start scratching. And the scratching led to bleeding, and it was a cycle. And as I said, my dermatologist thought they were connected. Turns out they weren't. So growing up with that made life hard. You want to fit in. Everybody does. And it's hard to fit in when you're worried that people are going to think you're contagious. Or, oh my gosh, this girl's so sweaty. And she's a girl. And it's just not appropriate. Or why does this girl never wear sandals or flip-flops? Well, it's because I can't keep them on my feet. My feet sweat so bad. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times as a kid I wanted to wear flip-flops or sandals or whatever like the in thing was, and I couldn't keep them on my feet, or like I would have to like rig it somehow to make it work. It just never worked. I mean, even now at 32, even though I'm medicated, it's still not enough. I still, like, I tried flip-flops even after I've started this new medication, and it's still, my feet sweat too bad. I can't do it. I can't keep them on my feet. My feet sweat, like, out of the shoes. And talking about my medication, so like any medication, there's always some sort of side effect. So I have to go every 3 or 4 months to my dermatologist to be tested and make sure that I'm not showing any signs of like organ issues or anything else. So you can see my lips have started to crack, and that is actually a side effect from my medicine. And so I have another medicine that I have to put on my lips every night to try to not be this dry. This just is, something's going on today, and I'm failing at being medicated. So living with hyperhidrosis, it's complicated. It's not impossible. I've had several students that have it, and we always talk about, you know, ways to adapt, ways to fit in, to make it easier. And as a teacher, it helps to often be seen as somebody that knows too what they're going through. So my experiences as a teenager with it, and now as an adult, I mean, even now I still struggle with it. I'm in grad school again, and some days, on my worst days, when I'm dripping sweat from my hands and I'm ready to cry because I look at my computer that I'm trying to type a paper on, and I have to get a towel and wipe down my keyboard because my hands are sweating so bad. And it's 62 degrees in here, so I shouldn't be. It's difficult. Now, this is not an everyday thing. Some days I'm good. I have all of my ways to adapt or work in. I am ready for life. But it's on the hard days, and you have to have some patience with yourself, and you have to remind yourself that you're not just somebody with hyperhidrosis, that you are great. You are a happy person. You are going to make it, and it's going to be great. Yes, you have to adapt to any kind of obstacle that comes in your way, and hyperhidrosis is one of those obstacles. I've been there. I'm a librarian, so when I see my books from high school that I've kept, I have always been an avid reader, and I like paper books more than like a Kindle or my phone. And as you can see from my bookshelf behind me. But for those that have hyperhidrosis, if your hands are sweating and you're reading a book, the paper I don't know if it just interacts weird with sweat, but some of the books that I've sweated pretty bad on have finger marks from where I've sweated on them. And it's embarrassing. I've had some situations where people have made comments, especially in high school when my deodorant wasn't good. As I said, I have an allergic reaction to a lot of deodorants. And so finding one that works with the sweating and works with covering like body odor is a lot harder for me. So in high school, my deodorant didn't work very well. It would work well with only one of the two issues. And at that time, I didn't know what I was allergic to. And when you have an allergic reaction, it takes months to get rid of it. So switching deodorants is not a fun thing, especially when you're worried about a interaction. So living with hyperhidrosis it's rough. Growing up with it was not easy, but you figure it out. You talk to your dermatologist. You look into things like procedures and different treatments and things that, yeah, it's going to cost some money and I can't afford it as a grad student. But you figure it out. No, it's not the end of the world. And no, being made fun of, yeah, it hurts your feelings. It really does. And I know it does. But you learn to realize that everybody has something going on. They do. And it's not always easy. But you've got this. Have a great day, guys.